I'm hooking up the Leviton Decora Smart Wi-Fi dimmer switch three-way. Actually, it's in a four-way scenario here, but there's a couple things they don't really explain in the documentation or the installation instructions that I think understanding would make it easier for people to figure out how to actually wire these. On the back of the switch, there's some labeling for let's see, black, I'm not going to say so, black, white, YLRD, and RD. And that doesn't really help you understand what these things are. So just really quickly, this is not an installation video or a how-to video, but just some tips and explaining some things. So the hot wire is the BK wire, and the white wire is the neutral wire on this side. So this device requires power, and it's a load just like the way a light is a load. So it needs hot and neutral just to run itself. Then on this side, this white, this connection coming out over here is really more like a signal wire. It's not like a traditional three-way or four-way setup. It's really a common bus over which the signal for on, off, and dimming, and non-dimming, I guess, are sent. And then this other black wire on the other side, which is on the red screw, is really your switched output. So the instructions say that the dimmer, the actual dimmer, not the remotes, but the actual dimmer needs to be connected to the load. And one of the things that they don't really tell you about is how to determine which of these wires out of three of them, out of three switch boxes, how do I know which one is the actual load? And I'm not an electrician, but after doing this a few times, I started to realize that the load will typically have a wire that is tied, pigtailed into the white, and then it'll have a black, so the black right here. And typically that's going to be the load, at least in my house it is. And then these other two wires are the traveler wires. And so what we do is we connect all the blacks together to create a common, a common hot bus, let's call it. And then we tie all the whites together to create a common, it's not really a neutral, but a common signal wire that we use across all of these. And in my house, the neutrals weren't really connected, so you definitely want to, or the ground wires were not connected, so you definitely want to connect the ground wires. So that's the load box, which has the actual dimmer on it. So if we go over to the, this is kind of like the middle, that's on one end of the run of lights here in the hallway. On the other, in the middle here, we have a remote switch. And the remote switch does not have that switched red screw on it. So what we have here is a neutral right here. This is live, so I'm not going to touch it, but that's the neutral for this load, which is just a switch. And then we have hot wire, which powers this, but not only does it power this, we want to carry that hot load in common with the other two switches. So we have the blacks here gang together on the same screw. And then we have the whites gang together for the signal. So if you look inside the box, we have, it's two sets of wires on the right hand side here, and the blacks are gained together and the whites are gained together. So it's kind of like an in and out, really, since this is sitting in the middle. You could, if this was one cable, you would have cut the cable in the middle so that you can insert this switch. So that's why those are joined up together. It's basically, think of it as an in and out, but really it's just jumping them together so that they're continuous, a continuous black and a continuous white. And then also a separate white that is pigtailed together for the common. And then Over in the other box down here, we have the source for the hot, which is, you can usually tell that because those are usually getting together. So this is kind of where the hot is coming from, so to speak, coming into the outlet to power it, and then out again. It's not really in and out. That's a bad way to think of it, but it's in common with this other wire, which then feeds down the hallway to the middle switch and then to the end switch. So that's kind of an explanation of how these work. It's not traditional. Each box has power running to it, so a hot and a neutral. And then it also has a common hot, so you tie all the blacks together, and then a common signal wire, which is this white. So hopefully that clarifies that a little bit. Another thing that you may want to do is I like to hook up the neutral first. It's a little bit fiddly to get it inside that screw. So I usually do the, sorry, I keep calling it neutral, the ground. You want to hook up the ground first. And the last thing I would say about these switches is it's a little disappointing that the dimmer is not continuous on these remotes, or even on the main one, but even less so on the remotes. By the time you let go, there's a delay like when you let go of them, and you think you're dimming it slowly down, but really it's sending, it seems like, multiple commands, and by the time you let go, the delay causes the lights to actually shut off. So I let go, but it continued to shut off. So I don't like that feature. So what I've learned to do is just really just pop them one at a time. Just click it basically instead of holding on it, and then that lets me set the level better. And I think that's about it for tips right now. Hopefully helped you out.